Ranging from new forms of medical treatment to a better understanding of the universe to life-changing spiritual revelations, these natural tools offer us the ability to seek greater knowledge. Tools that could positively affect life on our planet. Let's answer Dr. Strassman's question. If so, so what?
Because of the collapse of consciousness, spiritual and scientific knowledge split apart. Both these modes of knowing have to come together. In other words, science and technology, from a traditional religious perspective, is not an extra. It is part of the process by which humanity is going to evolve into its next stage.
How do we find the right form for psychedelics in the future? I mean, assuming that psychedelics are part of the human future, right? For that, at the moment, they're still, generally repressed and suppressed and legal. If that were to change, how would we begin to construct a kind of system that would allow for a kind of rational and mature exploration of psychedelics?
I think that the name of the game is to show science the pertinence of this somewhat outlandish realm. And it's not just crazy stuff. It shouldn't be considered as, let's say, not even worthy of interest or illegitimate. I actually think because it's declared off bounds, it just makes it interesting to start with. But one doesn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and I think it's really important to stay faithful to science.
What does it mean? Why is there a part of the brain that seems to be, for lack of a better word, a God detector? What's the evolutionary advantage to having some part of the brain that seems to, trigger and mediate experiences of the transcendent?
The Kabbalah is revealing to us that the pineal body is actually the very edge of the higher dimension that is penetrating into our lower dimension, and it is located precisely in the middle of the brain.
I can remember reading about Descartes, thinking that it was actually the interface between the spiritual dimension and the dimension of matter. And I remember studying that as a foolish idea from our history. And now it seems actually like a very interesting idea.
What we are looking for out there is really in here. It is the doorway. It is the gate.
So we focus on the transformative effect of the psychedelics. But it's also true that the reverse is true, that it requires transformation in order to embrace psychedelics. It's one of the tricky paradoxes of postmodernism that psychedelics both require and produce a transformative effect.
We have severed our connection to spirit. That's what our society has done. It has sought to persuade us that the material realm is the only realm, and the only way we're going to recover is to reconnect with spirit. And I truly believe we need the help of the plants in order to do that.
Part of our work is to respect these medicines and then to change the culture enough that people doing them can be respected and held, and not everybody needs to do them, not everybody should or wants to, but that it isn't pushed to the side. And so part of that does involve then research, because that's how in our reductionist society we validate things.
With the passing of the years and the opportunity for sober reflection, I think there's a growing appreciation that there may be something to gain from studying these compounds, that there's a lot we can learn, and there may very well be treatment models, particularly for patient populations for whom conventional treatments are ineffective, for whom the psychedelic model, when utilized optimally, may provide great benefit.
I think the most important thing that we could do right now that would be fairly straightforward to do is to ask and answer the question of whether ayahuasca could help people who have drug and alcohol abuse. And given that we know that DMT and similar alkaloids have a very strong effect on the same receptor sites that are involved in depression, and the notion that most people, in my experience, who use drugs and alcohol are self-medicating a deep depression or an anxiety.
I've had permission now over the last few years to utilize psilocybin, which is the active alkaloid in hallucinogenic mushrooms, in the treatment of patients with advanced stage cancer who have anxiety. We're treating the anxiety, not the cancer. Now, psilocybin is 4-phosphoryloxy N,N-dimethyltryptamine. So obviously, from a chemical structure point of view, very similar to DMT.
Ultimately, what I want to do is see these things used in the way that they were used traditionally, to heal people, help people. And right now, helping people come to terms with dying.
It changes your whole relationship to your death, your impending death. Believe it or not, you're gonna die. And now, with this tool of having crossed over already, some of the fear around that will disappear.
Now I'm beginning to wonder whether consciousness may actually survive biological death, that maybe the model that we've been working under in psychiatry and the behavioral pharmacology model is just wrong. It's backwards, actually. That consciousness is primary in the universe and matter is a result of.
Utilizing substances like DMT or 5-methoxy-DMT may really help us prepare by practicing a transient dying experience. Thus far, we're observing very positive effects in regards to the nature of experience during the session and then subsequent effects on mood regulation and anxiety control, pain perception, and overall quality of life for cancer patients. By and large, our subjects do quite well in the time they have remaining.
For those people who do come to terms with it, part of it is a recognition that these psychedelics open up a space that they weren't aware existed, and sort of give them a vision of what could be past death, as well as a better perspective on the accomplishments they've made in life, a better feeling about what they've done in their own lives.
But I think all people who have psychedelic trips and meditations and so on are poking more or less into the same higher realm and receiving some information from there. If we can develop this could be absorbed into ordinary science that we could approach with the scientific method and so on, then our intelligence, our capability of survival on planet Earth would be increased. I mean, we're a dying species. We live on a dying planet. We're killing the planet. So our disease is extremely serious. And therefore, we're desperate to find new information, ideas, and so on that can transcend. We have to evolve. And I think our intellectual evolution may be predicated upon the psychedelic pioneers.
It's so easy to change the world. I mean, and that's the kind of thing that you can see on psychedelics. If you don't get trapped in the beauty and awe of the psychedelic experience itself. You know, it's like looking through the chandelier of reality from a different vantage point. You know, you can now project through those crystals in another way, and it's beautiful. But, okay, now come back, now come back.
I think if I ever were to resume giving people psychedelics, particularly DMT, it wouldn't be just to kind of tinker with brain chemistry and just see what's happening. I think one of the things I also learned in the research is that you just don't want to give drugs and see what happens. That's a little, I don't know if callous is the word, but that's the first word that comes to mind. I think if you're really going to open people up like that, you need to do it for a purpose, not just for scientific curiosity. And I'd like to be helpful rather than just sort of smart or clever.
to my mind, is this kind of two-edged sword of simultaneously opening up to the numinous world, to the world of messages, the world of spirits, the world of entities, and at the same time rigorously taking that material into the acid bath of neurology, into sociology, into the ongoing construction of reality. And that the wisdom that these things bring is this kind of very tricky mixture of authentic religious experience with gods and messages and clear signs, and a sort of remarkable mirror of the mind.
The curiosity, perhaps the uniqueness of the human creature, is that we live in both realms. We have the ability for spiritual experience, and we have the ability for physical experience. The agenda of the spirit world, if there is an agenda, is to allow us to experience our full potential and to deliver our full potential. And maybe the choices that we are making right now as a civilization and a society rebound far beyond ourselves.
And I think DMT is a forcible reminder that there's a lot more about reality, the universe, ourselves, the biosphere, whatever, that there's a lot more to it than we imagine.
It seems our reality is not the only reality. Occasionally, the cracks reveal themselves and may even want to be discovered. As humans, we are creatures that thirst for knowledge. We spend time, money, and infinite energy searching for it, in schools, in churches, in business, and in technology. Knowledge is power, and thus our greatest quest. Dimethyltryptamine, a molecule with a complex name and the simplest ability to unlock the door to another dimension, and perhaps, just perhaps, our future evolution.